recording.
Cool.
All right.
So no action on the executive session.
No, confirmed.
Okay.
All right, gotta find my notes again.
So Joe, what's the latest?
The latest is we're gonna have a forum where we're hoping to push forward a forum. And we're looking for a recommendation from you folks to move forward. Raph has a wealth of knowledge and he also has folks in the industry, some professors that he worked with. I think it would be great if we can get them to come in and present to the whole board. So everybody's all on the same page and we can make an executive decision here
Katie Sutton, who's the superintendent of Hartford,
as well.
is also willing to be part of that forum and offer her experience at Hartford High School. It's very informative of what she's been through in the last year.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know from any of these resources or any of Joe's knowledge, how valid and how prevalent is the statement that PCBs the situation could be made worse by either testing or mitigation, but maybe I have that wrong. Can it be made worse by testing or just by mitigation?
So I can give you an example, North Country Supervisory Union, they hit for PCBs and the state of Vermont suggested that they needed more air exchange and they had them install HVAC equipment to move more air through the building and it actually increased their level of PCBs inside the building. They're actually pulling more PCBs out of the structure, for lack of a better term. I don't know if it was in the cinder block or the paint or whatever. So yeah, it definitely could come back and bite you. Encapsulating PCBs is another option that the state is pushing. But if we go down that road, we're beholden to test every quarter to make sure that we don't have an influx of PCBs. So
And
So-
that's 25,000 a test, 4 times a year.
yes, 25,000 a test. So at the end of the day, to me, I think there's only one path. Depending, again, on that threshold, if we hit, we remediate. That would be my advice.
And
That's
that's
just,
the direction Hartford's gone. They are not encapsulating.
yes.
They don't want to be responsible for the annual fee and they want it out of the building. And so
Immediately,
that's
yeah.
why they are pursuing that path. The DEC, who is in charge, is really pushing hard up against that. But the board of Hartford and the superintendent is very adamant that they want the PCBs removed from the building.
Yeah,
Where are the PCBs in Hartford? Are they in the
Uh,
flooring? Are they in the air conditioning? Are they in the
They're,
walls? What are they?
some-
Where are they?
In the wall, cinder block, I was told.
In the
and state
cinder block?
suggests- Yeah, it's been embedded in the cinder block again through whatever sealant that they put on perhaps. Maybe there was a sealant before they painted over it. It could be the paint, but they went back to the cinder block and they still found PCBs in the cinder block. That's why they're talking about tearing that place
And
down.
it's the auditorium, gym, and cafeteria
I think.
for the
those-
highest level of hit,
Correct.
as well as the tech centers. So tech centers tend to be the highest level. That was Burlington. That was the Harvard Tech Center. So we used to have along the backside of the football, we had a garage there, we had a wood shop. So if there were tech center type classroom space at the high school, it was at this end of the building where the old cafeteria used to be.
It could be in anything, Bob, literally. Paint,
Yeah.
caulk, all of it.
Well, since the state has put off the requirement because there's no funding temporarily, is it a true statement that we will have time to decide whether to test or not? This is not something that we need to jump into immediately, unless perhaps there's an overwhelming push from the public to do it right now, with the full knowledge that doing it right now could precipitate a whole range of costs, up to and including, literally putting a padlock on the doors and putting up a bunch of tents. But is it true that we would have enough time such that we engage the public in the conversation, and then, like Joe said, do we put $500,000 into testing, or if we have this idea, if there's another way to build a new school, to open up that conversation again about the possibilities there, whatever they may be. Will we have enough time to use this as a lever to get going on a new school?
And I think what you said exactly right, Bob. I think we need to have a forum so that the community can come in, we well advertise, we put it out there, we get on the listservs, we bring in a panel of experts, we allow the community to ask those kind of conversations, we see the reaction, and we put the whole host of options. And one of the questions that I think is really big is the 500,000 best served to test, which will take over a year, that's what it took at Hartford, or is the money best used to move forward on the new facility? And I think garnishing the input of our communities and having a very open conversation is a way to begin that.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no pressure from the state to move forward on this. If anything, they're frowning upon us testing. That's the input I've been getting from other facilities directors. They really don't want us doing anything.
But I think to answer your question,
That-
that date is arbitrary. It was just kind of what they said we needed to do, but there's no oversight at this point.
No.
Laura?
Comment? Question?
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with this position entirely. I think that if we have forums, that the people who are most likely to come out to the forums are going to be the people who are going to be adamant that we test immediately and remediate immediately, and they're not going to care about the cost. Because every time we've made moves to do something, those are the people who show up, the people who have feelings, which may or may not be subject to any kind of logic about the finances or anything like that. My position is that we were told about this testing years ago. I don't know if it's 2 or 3 years ago, and Burlington did its thing. We did not feel at that time that we needed a public forum, that we needed to talk to our communities about all this. We were content to wait on the state-funded, state-mandated testing schedule. And my opinion is that we should continue with that same attitude. We are content to wait on state-funded, state-mandated testing schedules. We don't need to do anything different now.
Meaning,
It's
No.
interesting because,
But-
oh, sorry.
sorry, I'm just kind of want to clarify, meaning don't test now, but test when funds are available?
Exactly. And I do not think we need community engagement on this. Just like we didn't need community engagement on it 3-5 years ago.
Well, part of that too was because we're pushing so hard to have a new building. And I think that's why our date was so late, because I think the state thought we were gonna have a new facility, and so that was how it was gonna be resolved. And now that we don't have any opportunity to build a new building.
Well,
Can I
there's
say
a lot of,
something?
there's-
They don't see.
there's a lot of evidence, or I should say there's a lack of evidence to indicate that we have a 3 Mile Island situation here, Chernobyl, or what was the river, what was the sediments that they dug up for years and
PCBs.
years, upstate New York?
Yeah, there was PCBs.
What was the name of that community? Where a lot
I
of
can't-
cancers, I forget.
Yeah, it was PCBs.
It was in
know.
the Erie
Rockaway?
Canal or something,
Yeah.
but we
Do
don't
I
have that.
find-
There's Dr. DeBitko, didn't come out saying, I've been noticing, dozens of more cancers from graduates of Woodstock Union High School. So I think our assumption's got to be that there's not a problem until we find out there is a problem. So I could go the other way and just wait until the funding is available by the state.
Sure.
Joe?
No, but can I say something, Katie?
Yeah, who has their hand up? Go ahead.
All right, first of all, I worked in the building for 39 years, and I'm the picture of health according to my wellness checkup today that I had for the geriatric. I can remember my 3 words, and I could draw the clock face accurately. But there's been a fair amount of activity on this one WhatsApp stream called Save Our Schools SOS or something like that. I just got put on it recently because they wanted to ask me questions. There's a lot of people on it, over 100. And this PCB conversation has been going on back and forth. And most of the people who are parents have said, we don't want that. We want to get a new school. We don't want to test for those PCBs because it's going to suck all the money away. And anyway, what is it that big of a deal? So that conversation has been happening now for a month. We've put it in the newspaper that we had PCBs. There's been no one screaming at our meetings.
No,
So I
Love
don't know.
Canal. It was Love Canal.
There you go. That was way back here, Bob. That was, you had to go through the Rolodex for that one.
What?
Hmm.
Well, so I mean, there's no funding for it. I don't know why we should be going out of our way looking to spend money when there are going to be issues coming up that we're going to have no choice. So, we've talked about it in our capital plan. So I'm changing my mind on the subject, other than maybe making reference to the fact that we could continue to pour hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars into the building that we have now, including doing this, doing that, doing the other thing, or we could put our efforts and money into building a new school.
Yeah, we can continue to say that we are likely to hit if the state resumes the testing. Hartford hit, looks what's happening to them. I think that using PCBs to try, as you say, to make the spark to get people back into the idea of a new school is still valid without us having to do the actual testing.
Agreed. Hi,
I think
Ryan.
another tool was to start using the word that we are a hub school. If we have 20 communities in our school, which we do through choice, 7 of our towns and 13 other communities who voluntarily send their tuition dollars here. I think we need to start honing that word and calling ourselves, we're already a hub.
Yes.
And then Sherry's gonna list out at some point the elements of what makes us a community school, because we have those pieces. We just don't claim the term.
Right.
So we've been talking about marketing strategies and hoping to have a communications group and working group joint meeting to sort of talk about what our roles are and what we need to be doing.
Okay.
Ryan, do you want to chime in? Thanks for joining. I know you had baseball stuff, but do you have any thoughts? Do you want to share what you're thinking?
I mean, I kind of agree with Bob. I think this PCB, when the state picks it back up, is going to be a nightmare for us. But that's something they can control. We don't have to speed it up for them or spend our money that we don't really have. But yeah, otherwise than that, everything else is great.
And I think
Are-
we should take into account that while I imagine obviously anybody exposed to PCBs, whatever the risk factors are, but it's got to be our faculty that is at the highest risk because they're in those classrooms for the
Correct.
years, decades, in some cases, all day, every day.
Sure.
The kids come and go. So I think it's important that we acknowledge that this is an important issue. I agree with Laura. Let me back up. 2 weeks ago, I was pretty fired up and I was like, no, we need to test. Everyone has the right to know. I want to know what the risks are sending my kids to the school. And I did have conversations with Dr. Trebecco beyond this. I did talk to people in the community, and the more we learned about, the more I studied it and looked it up, my own little research. I kind of feel like what's the risk of waiting one more year, since the date for us to test in July was an arbitrary decision by the state according to their timeline. There was no reasoning behind it. It's just kind of where we fell in the order. I don't think we should say we don't test. I think we say we will postpone the testing and reevaluate, this time next year based on what the state funding is, because it is an important issue. I think it is important. There are health concerns, but we don't have a way to fund it. And that's not something we should take lightly either.
I think it would be great, Katie, if you met with Holly and Tom Ayers from the Standard, so that we can get that really well articulated statement out to our communities.
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm
If-
actually surprised Polly's not on.
If this is a general building and grounds meeting, do we have any other issues we need to talk about, Joe? We Building an
we just-
elevator or not?
Yes, eventually. My problem is now trying to find, I'll have the stamped engineer drawings hopefully tomorrow. They promised me Wednesday, which is tomorrow. My problem is, again, finding a contractor willing to do it who isn't out at least a year. I think I have someone local who might be able to do it for us. I'm just waiting on those, drawings from the engineers, which I should have hopefully by the end of this week. I'd like to complete it before the end of this year, not fiscal, but calendar. So I'd like to complete it before December 31st, which I think is feasible. If I can get this company to commit,
Mhm.
and I think I have a good chance at doing that. But Turner, Nelson and Trumbull, they turned it down. They couldn't start until after the first of the year. I think that was Trumbull, so. Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to do is review the capital improvements plan with you guys so that, we can move forward and recommend it be accepted by the board. I would assume we do that in the fall, September.
Or we have an August board meeting.
Do we? So I would assume August or September. I know Jim is gonna bring it up to finance at his meeting, which I think is next week. So yeah, a quick review of that. I know we went through it briefly, but we have a final draft here that was embedded in the agenda. And I can pull it up on the screen if you guys like to go over it pretty quickly. I don't wanna bore you and keep you here all night. Unless somebody else has anything else pressing. I think that's it.
Let's just go back to PCB testing just real quick. Carrie, are you looking for us to make a recommendation one way or the other?
Yes,
Okay, so we need to decide as a group what our official recommendation is. So do we want to vote? Do you want me to take all of our opinions and combine them into one? What do we want to say?
I think we can vote to postpone the testing until state funds are available to do it.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's vote. All those in favor of waiting until funds are available to take up testing again, say yay.
Aye.
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 Okay, great. See you, Ryan. I got you. Okay, I will put that in the notes. Perfect. Now we can move on to capital investment plans. And I will let you take it away, Joe. Are you pulling up on your screen, you said?
I'm gonna try, bear with me here, and let's see if I can find it here. Let's see,
Probably have to open your documents.
yeah, I do have it,
Mm.
let's see. I have it here. But how can I share with everyone? Through Zoom.
is it on is it up at the top of your desktop there?
Yeah, well,
Okay, so go back to your,
my Zoom
your Zoom,
and
and then,
share.
yeah. And then you should find that tab up at the top.
Right here. All
There
right,
you go.
okay, so. Let me see. Carrie, you don't necessarily have to sit through this, but if you'd like to. I think what I want to do is just point out, probably 3 or 4 things. I think the first thing I want to talk about is that, this document isn't set in stone. It is literally, a living document. it is recommendations on what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all gonna be done or it'll be changed or any of that for that matter. Let me see if I can, I need to rotate this, but all my stuff is hidden behind.
If you can put that down at the bottom, drag it down.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it on here and drag it. Nope. Ignore that, and we're in a,
Go to the corner.
right, there we are. Oops. Try the other corner. Come on, work with me, I saw you there.
Joe, do you want to drive?
There you go. So close yet so far, it's nothing.
You can do the first single, so you don't have to see it. Yeah, just do that. Hey,
Alright, but I still need to get the behind it because I want to rotate this.
so now you can slow Joe, you can slide Bob down.
Okay.
Yep, you can. Hey,
Let's try that. And where's rotate? Do we have rotate?
you have to download it and then you can rotate.
Oh, no
Yeah,
way.
that's all. Just hit download. It's no big deal. Oh, where'd you go?
It's downloading.
And we'll just save it in downloads,
Final draft.
open it.
And now,
That's kind of dumb. You can't rotate it when it's on the in Google
Yeah,
Docs.
now you can down, now you can.
Now I
There it is,
can
next over.
rotate.
There you go.
And
Making us dizzy, Joe.
there we go.
Bingo.
How about exit at this point?
Thank you.
Hey, what are you saying?
All the fun stuff.
Numbers make me nervous.
All right. So what we've done
Bye,
is.
Carrie. Thanks for
we
coming.
looked-
Yeah, good night,
Thanks,
thanks, Al.
Carrie.
Guys, have a good night. So what we did is we broke it down per school. You can see that. And I'm gonna scroll down a little bit till I get to the big sheet. Each school is broken down: West, Killington Elementary. But what I wanted to show you is Jim and I tried to basically keep the totals about the same for each year, rather than jump up and down. We try to keep the spending as level as possible. We also anticipated some of our larger projects not being able to fund that through our general fund. So what we've done is we've broken it out into bonding issues. So this is our giant spreadsheet here with everything, and I think I'll scroll down to the bottom here again and try to give you those totals. So you can see yearly totals, 2027, we're at 1.8. 28, 2 million, 2 million. So we try to keep it level throughout. So we had an idea. We wouldn't be surprised by anything jumping out at us. Suddenly we needed an extra 5 million, whatever that would be. We also, you can see how a majority of the stuff is coming out through general funding. Jim had also recommended, again, going to bond for some of these larger projects. And I'll give you an example of, let's say, let me hear. So the work on the high school, replacing the roof or Killington siding, those are $1 million plus projects. And what we're looking to do again is borrow that money and then spread it out over the years so that we're not totally buried by it. So if
The mechanical for KES.
Yep, and if you look at 2029 Woodstock Union High School, we lumped a bunch of stuff in there. Bonding source would be the greenhouses, the roof replacement phase 2, window replacement phase 1, all multi-million-dollar projects. We wrapped up into one bond, borrow the money at once, we spread it all out, and that way we're not impacted by jumping forward and having be, assaulted by a large project somewhere down the line that we're beholden to. So
Do you have any of these sheets by facility, by year?
I do. So if you scroll back up to the top here, and you have a copy, each one of you have a copy of this in your agenda. There's a link to it. But if we go back all the way up to the top, you'll see how I have them broken out by year in each school, Reading
Okay,
Elementary.
so where's Woodstock Union High School? That's what I'm interested in.
there.
So there it is. So over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
10 million.
Hmm?
10 million, 9.8.
What's the 14?
That is total for, all the projects, all the schools.
Oh, all the schools.
Yeah. Running total,
So it's $13 million.
correct.
See, I think this could be a very useful document for our community communications committee to start talking about.
And I think the point I also want to make too, this is stuff, that I know of. This isn't
Any surprises?
any surprise, something
Right.
else coming up. Daily, I get something over there where I say to myself, oh my God, how did I not recognize that? Would need to be replaced somewhere down the line, or if we have a catastrophic failure, again, Sherry's famous quote of "we're one flush away," we are. If that happens, it's just as bad as PCBs. I'll be shutting areas of the building down.
Would it be helpful, Joe, to include in this plan the cost of having to bring trailers in? Because we keep getting asked that question. If we have a catastrophic failure, what would be the annual cost to set up classrooms on the football field?
I can give you that number.
No, I mean, Katie, do you want that? Does B&G want that included in the capital improvement plan or just ancillary?
It's not really, would that be well, that would be a capital expenditure if we needed to do it, but this is a plan that says this is what we're gonna expect to spend. We can't expect to spend money on trailers, can we? Unless we had a category
we have
here
to-
for
Well,
provisional.
again,
We have to educate the kids and provide an space. I just, open question.
Ryan, go
If
ahead.
we had, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Joe if it's possible. I'm agreeing with Bob on this is great information to get out, how we see fit to actually show the money that's going to be spent regardless of if we don't build a school. Is it possible to get some numbers on what we predicted or had budgeted the past 2, 3, 4 years and how much more we spent so we could also show a percentage like this is what we have for the next 5 years slated, but on average over the past few years we're 20% over budget as well to give the public a better understanding of all these unexpected hidden things that pop up that we also still have to pay for on top of what's planned.
I
yeah,
don't-
Good point.
yeah,
I
we
don't
can
think,
definitely
have
do
we
that.
been over budget?
We've shifted money towards the high school.
We've borrowed and stole money from, I mean, just this, cleaning of the, ductwork, we took that residual money left over that luckily was there. That was 90,000 that we did not have.
Then
So, yeah.
that's probably not a bad idea to include in some document, maybe not this document.
Okay.
Unless you had this document created 3 or 4 years ago, and we can show that even though we budgeted $75,000 in 2017, we actually spent, X.
Yeah, we started this when Jim got here, which was 3 years ago.
Mhm.
So we have the original, or no, 5 years ago. We do have a 5-year plan. So I can go back and look at that. I can definitely give you a cost of what we put into that high school over the past 5 years.
Well, the 1.5 million
That's-
PE system.
That's not a problem at all. Yeah, Jim can jump right in
Perfect.
and stuff out of Power School, and I can give you a just B&G spend on that building. of
So
the
maybe
past
there's
5 years.
an ancillary report that includes the overspends by year
Okay,
from the capital plan, as well as
a total.
as well as what would it cost if we had an over system and we had to set up, because you and I keep getting asked, how much does it cost for the trailers?
Yeah.
And running electricity and something. I think that's another piece of the information that needs to get out. It's not cheap to set up portable classrooms.
No, I still have the quote for the classrooms. And then as far as the running utilities, I can swag that and I can give you guys a number.
Laura, go ahead.
My question has to do with how do we get a bond going? So I keep hearing you saying that we're gonna get a bond, but if Montpelier has intentionally tried to forbid us from voting for bonds, how would we do that?
So the intentionality is by combining our per pupil spend. Like, there's not saying we can't have a bond, but any bond cost or expense has to be in our per pupil spend, and that's what's prohibited. So they're not saying no bond, they're just saying if you pass a bond, you have to include it in your per pupil spend. And so
Right.
in 454, there's about 20 pages of work we will need to do in order to move a plan forward. And so our intention is, starting in July, we'll start working our way through that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think this document should stay as is because this is our capital investment plan. But I do like the idea of having some, whether that be an appendix to this or a separate document that tells us what happens if there's a catastrophic failure of something and what that will cost to move kids around. I don't necessarily think that it belongs in this document just because we're not actually looking to pay that. We don't want to pay that out. But having the information handy for PR purposes, I think is good. Any kind of marketing communications that
Yeah,
we should
What
know.
about
so,
the appendix, the 5-year back, look back? Could
Mhm.
that be an appendix to this document? Because that is the same capital plan, but 5 years back.
That's a good idea.
I'd add it to
Okay.
this document so we could see how we're tracking. I mean, let's say,
Mhm.
for example, over each of the last 5 years, we were 20% over our estimates. Maybe that says that we should do something.
Have we been, Joe? Have we been over?
We don't know. He's got to look it
no,
up.
we've been pretty close. If we've been over, it's just been slight. What's been, getting us are the surprises. Laura mentioned about going to bond if there's something catastrophic. It would not be that simple. If I had a catastrophe in that high school or something broke, it wouldn't be as simple as go to bond. It would take too long. I'm not sure. I don't have a good answer for that. It's not like we have a
We would
blank checkbook.
overspend, and that the overspend would go towards the next year's, because it always skips a year.
Exactly. So,
Bob knows, he's been on the board long enough, but you would overspend because we're still fiscally responsible to offer a school program. However, we would eat that money in the next year.
exactly. So the path down that road would be pretty complex if we had a catastrophe or we lost something and we needed a couple $1 million. It's not there.
I'm gonna guess that we're not gonna show, at least in the last 3 years, that we overspent. Because what we have done is deferred maintenance on many things to cover the cost of the unexpected things. So I don't think you're gonna see that we overspent, is my theory. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
The result is there were things that didn't get done in the last 3 years because of things that popped up at the high school.
Yep.
agreed.
So, but
for
you
the
could
most
look
part.
at by building if we overspent. So we stole money from Killington to pay for X. So while we may have we had to underspend in certain parts and not do projects that were originally in the capital plan in order to realize money to address issues in this.
So I've done that where
Yeah,
I pushed.
that would be really important, because so that our elementary schools, their maintenance is being deferred in order to keep the middle school, high school facility open.
Yep.
I hear Katie saying.
Mhm. I can only speak the last couple years because that's what I know. Bob
Yeah.
has more historical knowledge there.
Yeah, the old fart.
I didn't use the
Historical
three-letter word. Historic, much nicer.
Yeah, well, what I have in age, I've lost in memory, so it all evens out. The older I get, the less I remember.
I think the only other thing I wanted to point out is, so each of these projects that I'm scrolling through, there's a whole bunch of them. They all have, justification sheets. Here's one that I'm doing this summer, pre-K, kindergarten playground, Barnard Academy. Needs one, it's in good condition, but it doesn't have, the appropriate age size equipment for pre-K and kindergarten. So we need one, it's required. and we have to put one in. So each one of these projects does have a justification sheet. If you're bored one night and you got nothing to do, you wanna go through and read them all. These are my thoughts of why we are doing things.
A lot of work. Thank you, Jim.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Jim.
have to
Well,
vote on this.
a lot of it was Jim. He actually brought the template with him. It helped an awful lot. And now, by the way, this is required by the state of Vermont. They're asking us to all do capital improvement plans. No new schools will be built. They won't give us any money unless we show them a capital improvement plan, and we showed them one 5 years ago. And Jim just sent this to Bob Donahue like yesterday, saying, we're way ahead of the curve again.
Again.
good.
Does anybody else have any questions about anything specific in there? I know it's a lot. I went to go read the whole thing. I was like, how many pages is this? So I went through like the first page.
And I certainly
And I will
don't mind
continue
going
working
through
through
it
it.
with you guys. I just don't wanna kill you with it.
Cool.
Any other questions from anybody before?
Let's
We
not
move on.
touch. That's not a good.
Wait, what do you do?
This is.
Are we ready to adjourn then?
We don't need to vote on this, right, Joe? Because this is already part of the budget that is approved. This is,
All we need to do is, recommend that we bring it forward to the board to accept, so.
Motion to move.
However you wanna, phrase
So
that.
if you want to stop your share.
okay. All those in favor of recommending to take the capital investment plan forward to the full board
I read
meeting
one.
for a
Aye.
vote,
Sorry.
say aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. You need, I as well. Great. I as well. Okay. And I believe that's it. So we will adjourn at 7:30 on the dot.
Well,
Nice work, team.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks.
thanks,
Have a
guys.
good day.
See you
See
in
ya.
August. Okay, so then you stop recording. Yep, and then make it go to the cloud.